All right. We're good?
Okay. You must put me fixing my hair. Hi, I'm Felicia.
And of course, I'm Giancarlo.
And this is our review of
Eternal Dynasty.
Speaking of geishas, we were talking about them before.
That's right, we were. I don't know if we should bring it up.
No.
I'm gonna lose my shit.
Giancarlo's gonna have a
whole Halloween.
A little bitch fit on this chair.
Oh, this is racist. This is racist. Everything's racist.
Everything's
nowadays.
racist. Would this be racist? Cause
apparently because they're real Asians, right?
What do you mean?
Well, not real, but I mean they're Asians, so therefore they're allowed to wear Asian outfits, I guess.
There's such a fine line between all this bullshit.
It's too fine.
It's crazy.
Too fine.
That wasn't me. That was the box. Here.
Now that was offensive.
Now that was offensive. This is pretty.
Yeah,
this is really cool.
Yeah, really good components in here.
Ooh, yeah, this is really nice.
Yeah.
So guys, come to Shea Geeks and buy this game. It looks fantabulous. Look, they even put you the, to keep everything fresh. When you buy shoes.
Exciting.
Do not eat. Giancarlo, do not eat. Don't eat this. Parachute it.
She's fresh, exciting. She's so exciting to me. In this territory control game, players will take on the role of various rulers through generations, competing for influence over ancient China. Set the board in the middle of the table with round token on 1 on the first row. Now each player will choose a color and will receive their influence and home province tokens as well as a Ne and Yi card. They'll place one of their influence marker on the star space on the score track. Shuffle and form each type of cards into separate decks. They are Vote, Dynasty, Events, and lastly, the bigger cards being Rulers. Give each player a number of vote cards equal to the number of players. Place all coins in the cloth bag while all other tokens should be placed in their respective pool. Roll to determine first player and give him the first player token. You're now ready to play. Obtain the most influence through wealth and control of provinces through military and political might, and you'll win.
The game lasts a number of generations equal to the number of players. You'll see this listed as rows on the board here. Each generation will last a number of rounds as denoted by the player count from here as well. At the end of a generation, scoring rounds will trigger. At the start of each generation, a couple of things will happen. The first thing that will trigger will be the event phase, though this phase is skipped for the first round. The first player will reveal a card from the event deck and also resolve its effect. If the event was a minor one, you'll need to draw and resolve a second event. If not, the major event will suffice. When done, each player will receive 3 ruler cards and 6 dynasty cards. Now each player will choose 1 ruler, returning the other 2 to the deck, and they'll choose and discard their dynasty cards so as to reach the number indicated in the ruler's card icon. Then, in turn order, each player will do their rulers after ruler are chosen abilities. Once done, again in turn order, each player will add 2 influence tokens in the military section and 2 influence tokens in the political section, along with their home province token on their home province as listed by their chosen ruler. You should also place a number of influence tokens on each of your rulers' military and political icons as their value. These are the bonus influence of each type this ruler will have for this generation. All this will become clearer as we explain. Now each player will play their turn, starting with the first and going clockwise. Each turn, a player may choose the following actions. Play a card, place 1 influence token in or adjacent to a province in which they already have influence, or elect to call a vote. Play a card is self-explanatory. This will trigger an effect of some kind. Usually it's to place influence or solidifying their influence by placing a structure or person of import. Forts and generals for military, palaces and magistrates for political. Of course, other cards can include skirmishes or alliances and marriages, all with different effects. Placing 1 influence action is just that. It needs to be placed in or adjacent to a province where you have influence. You choose the type of influence you place, military in the upper section or political in the bottom section of the province. When placing influence other than your 2 starting ones on your home province token, you may also place any same type bonus influence your ruler has as well. Lastly, a player may also choose to elect a vote. This action works a little different. First, a player can only call an election once per generation. Secondly, it doesn't use up an action to do so, meaning he'll perform one of the first 2 actions we mentioned after the election. When calling an election, the player will read the law he is trying to pass. After discussion, players will choose and place face down either their aye card if they're for passing of the law, or the nay card to prevent it from passing. When done, players reveal their cards. If there are more ayes than nays, the law will pass. Players, however, can boost their votes should they choose to. Starting with the player to the left, every vote card they spend will act as another of their A or nay cards. Careful though, as vote cards do not get replenished between generations as Dynasty cards do, but it might be worth it as cards voted and stay for the entire generation.
When the final round of a generation ends, a scoring phase ensues. For each province, award the following: 2 points to the player with the most military influence and 1 point to the second player. Note that generals will make the military influence count as double for the player who owns him. The same scoring applies for political influence, but here a magistrate will have the player owning him count his influence as double. For two-way ties, each player gets 1 point, and three-way ties, the players get nothing. Should a player have the most control of both sections in a province, they'll also randomly draw a coin and keep it face down in front of them. These range between 0 and 2 points each that the players will add to their points at the end of the game. Structures will provide additional points as well. Each fortress provides 3 extra points to the player with the most influence there. Palace works the same but for political influence. Now, unlike generals and magistrates, structures can switch between which player controls them throughout the game and do not get removed after a generation has passed. When a province is scored, award the players that many points by moving their influence up the score track. Place a scored marker on the province and move on to the next until they're all done. We then move on to the next generation.
First, remove all leaders, generals, and magistrates from the board. Return all chosen rulers for this past generation to the box. Pass the first player token to the next player on the left, and repeat the start of the generation phase with the drawing of events, choosing rulers and placing their home token in their new home province. Note that all influence on the board game remains there. The board will get cluttered, so switch any 5 influence cubes you own in a province with one of those big ones. Play until the last round of the last generation. Do the scoring as usual, except all players will add the total value of all the coins they collected as well. The player with the most influence at the end of the game is the winner.
As far as the territory control game goes, Eternal Dynasty is pretty solid. There's enough tactics based on ruler choice, when to play cards, use of your ruler bonus influence, when to call a vote, or when to spend vote cards to boost a law that needs to be implemented or prevented. And the game has you constantly reacting to how other players play their influence, so as to keep you invested at all times with low downtime and good player interaction. But even with the quick turns, the many rounds do make the game feel a little longer than it should. I think a couple of rounds shorter per generation would have alleviated this little problem. The generations, however, do need to be equal to the number of players. That's because the last player will have a slight advantage, but Eternal Dynasty took that into consideration, making every player be every turn order sequence once. So kudos on the balance in that department and with the rulers, as they seem to be on a pretty even keel. Luck seems to be pretty well balanced as well. Event cards are good and bad, and the ratio of a player being constantly hit with bad luck in the same province seems highly unlikely. The chart here will have you roll a d20 to see which provinces gets affected. Components are good and numerous, but I am only going to award a half point in the artwork department. The box art makes it a little misleading where it's got that last Airbender avatar look to it, while the card art in the game really reflect more the style and the theme of the game, which really could have been interchangeable with any theme. You could have reskinned this with a mobster theme, Greek mythology, or futuristic alien civilization. I'm not saying the choice was bad, and true, many games could be reskinned, but what I'm saying is that Eternal Dynasty, I felt more like repeating mechanics than getting engrossed in my actions due to theme. But again, this is not a big deal, so only a half-point penalty. Full point penalty, however, goes to the rulebook. Not badly written, but it could have used images, a little better layout, and hey, maybe some artwork and an engrossing little story on the characters so as to solidify the theme more. Still, all in all, Eternal Dynasty is a good, albeit long, territory control game. It gets a 7 out of 10.